Hi there, my name is Esh and I like to draw, but do you know what else I like? Well, you would if you watched the last video. Yes, as I have mentioned before, I love to play spooky video games, especially from indie creators. I feel like DIY developers and small teams come up with much more fun and unique ideas than the AAAs, and I just love to see what kind of crazy games they can pump out. That's why last October I decided to pay a bit of tribute by drawing some characters from games I had recently played and especially liked. But a lot of cool games have been released since then, and there are 3 characters in particular that I would love to draw. So let's just get right to it. Last time I made a video like this, I talked a bit about mascot horror games and how, despite some saying the market is oversaturated and the genre too formulaic, I still rather like them. What can I say? There's just something really fun about seeing innocent characters get corrupted. And besides, I like to look at the character designs. And clearly so does the streamer Unique Geese, because not only does he play a lot of them, he also recently released the first chapter of his own mascot horror game, Indigo Park. Indigo Park begins like many mascot horrors before them, with someone breaking into an abandoned amusement park. Here they soon run into the park's digital AI assistant Rambley the Raccoon, who is dead set on making sure our guest has the best possible experience at the park. Well, as long as you ignore the giant killer parrot. Yeah, that one. Trust me, it doesn't want crackers. It wants to crack skulls. Indigo Park is somewhat unique in that the mascot who is the face of the game doesn't appear to be the actual villain, but rather a wholly benevolent ally who is truly remorseful about how things have turned out in this setting. And I feel like we should reflect that in the drawing. Now, as you can see on my original pencil sketch, I drew a happy Rambley glitching down the middle to reveal a more dismayed face, as if his programming is being eaten up by something malevolent, since he does occasionally glitch in the game. So, with the power of digital art, I started out just drawing a regular happy little Rambley waving hello and welcome to the park. Say hello, Rambley.
Hello, Rambley.
Cute. With a bit of creative use of layers and folders, I put Rambley's face in its own folder, allowing me to turn it off when I want to. Boop. Now I make another folder and draw a new, more terrified face instead. Say, oh no, Rambley.
Oh God, no!
Good boy, Rambley. Now, with 2 versions of Rambley available, one happy and one terrified, I make a copy of the folder containing Scared Rambley and merge all the layers together to create a single graphic. Using the line selection tool, I then cut half of the Scared Rambley drawing off, giving us the split image we saw in the sketch. Now it's just a matter of figuring out how to do a cool glitching effect. After making a few more copies of Scared Rambley, I went into my color settings with each of them and started fiddling with color values, leaving a red, blue and green version of Rambley. Then I rearranged them a bit, played with opacity and layer effects, and erased all parts but the actual splitting point where the glitch begins. Once I add just a little bit of blur, we then end up with a Rambley who definitely looks like something is messing with him from the inside out. And yes, I realize it doesn't make sense to cover him in blood because he's a digital image, but I don't know, artistic liberty? Yeah, let's just call it that. But with that said, let's move on from cartoon raccoons to cartoon vampires. Because next, we're gonna be drawing Becky Brewster from the game #Blood, created by Exit 73 Studios. You may know the studio already from their work on a couple of animated Cinemassacre videos, as well as the game OKKO, Let's Play Heroes. Now, how can I best describe #Blood? Well, let's see. Try to imagine if Cartoon Network created Buffy the Vampire Slayer in the mid-2000s and then told every single standards and practices advisor to take a hike. And then you might have some idea. Now, you might think I'm cheating a little bit because this isn't really a horror game as much as it is an adventure game with horror themes, but I mean, have you looked at the frickin' thing? Yeah, it might be full of wacky, stylized, beautiful animation, but you better believe there's plenty of blood. Like, a lot of blood. And body horror. Oh, good lord, that poor goat. With my art, I tend to be a bit insecure about whether or not the drawing is particularly dynamic, or if I remember to stretch the characters enough to make some cool poses. So when I decided to draw Becky, I made it an action piece where she's well in the process of whacking a vampire in the face with her trusty hockey stick, Brenda. Wha-bam, bloodsucker! The challenge for me here was throwing my ideas of correct anatomy to the wind and just focusing on the impact and the base shapes. The giant hand, the oddly shaped club, cape flowing with the movement, the vampire practically being tossed backwards by the hit. All of it is a lot more punchy than what I've done before, even if some might say that the action is still shown at a bit too much of a straight-on angle. It's a piece of advice that I always give to others, but really need to learn to follow myself. Drawing expressively is often more important than drawing correctly. I still feel like I got some good energy in this piece though, and I did add a few different touches. Just little things like putting a bit of her hair out of place to imply she's been fighting for a while, making her hold her vampire stabbing pencils like Wolverine claws, and using the more visceral red coloring from a piece of promo art rather than her pink in-game appearance to give a proper feeling of rage. Add some blood, a simple background that makes both characters' colors pop, and a nice big cartoony sound effect. And that right there is a teenage vampire killer if ever I saw one. Eat your heart out, Sarah Michelle Gellar. But don't actually though. That's just a joke. Alright, that's enough with the cute little mascots and the cartoon vampires. But not quite enough of the abandoned theme parks. Because now, we're headed straight into Crow Country. Crow Country is a classic Resident Evil-inspired survival horror game developed by SFB Games. Here you play as Special Agent Mara Forrest, infiltrating the abandoned Crow Country amusement park to find its mysterious owner. And finding out a lot of things you were not prepared for on your way. This is a great game. Not all that scary, mind you, but very well thought out, full of interesting characters and puzzles, and graphically nailing the look of an early PS1 game. Without spoiling anything, it also takes the story in a very different direction than I was expecting while playing it, that's for sure. But the thing is, there doesn't seem to be a lot of official artwork of Mara outside of her in-game model, which, looks like this. So we're gonna have to look at some fan art and use our own imaginations in order to bring her to life. Now, despite what the title might imply, Crow Country isn't actually a crow horror game, even if the damn things are all over the place. It's really just the name of the park and the guy who owned it. But the crows are still a great visual that instantly identifies the game, so I decided to go with a ticked off looking Mara letting a crow rest on her arm like she's some kind of falconer. I also gave her a tight expression and let her hold her gun by her side. Like she just killed an enemy and is slowly mentally allowing herself to become one of the crows that scavenge the park. A lot of fan art seems to agree on keeping Mara's sharp nose on the in-game model intact. I don't know if that was the intention of the developers, but I rather like it. So I ended up taking a little bit of inspiration from Reagan Ridley from Inside Job for that look. I also added some very light eye wrinkles, because even though Mara is quite young in the game, there is a weariness to her character that I feel is worth reflecting in the design. And from this point onwards, we're really just drawing a badass survival horror lady. The dress certainly is a choice for a special agent breaking into an abandoned amusement park though. Let's tear that up a bit and give it some bloodstains, just to make it look like she's been through the ringer for a bit. And why exactly is a special agent dressed like that anyway? Well, you'll just have to play the game to find out, won't you? Once the drawing and the base coloring was done, I decided to play around with the line art texture just to make it look a bit more messy, and use the messier brush to create shadows than my usual rather clean cell shading. Then, after messing around with background color for a while, I added a burnt film reel texture to keep things dirtier and darker, and ended up with this picture of Mara. Tired and bloodied, but determined, ready to delve deeper into the park to face down whatever horrors await her. So what do you think? Which drawing was your favorite? Did you play any of these games? Are there any other indie horror games that deserve some fan art? Tell me all about it in the comments below, and don't forget to like the video and click the subscribe button while you're down there, because that way you'll be the first to know the next time I draw some spooky stuff. See you there, folks, and bye-bye.